Udi. Chapter 1. Judging Eyes. The city was still yawning when Miguel left the house with his styrofoam box hanging from his neck. The strap, made of frayed fabric, had already been sewn back together by his mother a few times. The box was white, dirty, around the edges, and worn by time, but it still did its job. Inside, Miguel carried 10 homemade sandwiches that he and his mother had prepared the night before, right after the sky went dark. She always said that bread made at night tasted even better the next day, and he believed her. Miguel was 13 years old. His face was thin, with large, alert eyes. His short, messy hair hadn't seen a barber in months. He wore a long-sleeved, striped shirt, one size too big, stained beyond saving. His worn-out jeans had a hole in the right knee, and on his feet, a pair of flip-flops that looked like they were fighting. To stay in one piece, one strap held together by twisted wire, it took him 30 minutes to walk to the city center. Miguel made the trip every day. As he walked, he repeated the numbers from the day before in his head. He had sold 7 sandwiches. That meant $5. After subtracting the cost of the bread, meat, and juice, they had $20 left. With that, they bought rice, a bar of soap, and a small bottle of dish soap. It wasn't enough for his mother's medication. He knew he had to sell everything today. When he reached the front of the most prestigious private school in the area, his stomach turned. It was an imposing building, with tall gates, mirrored windows, and a garden more beautiful than any park he had ever seen. Luxury cars pulled up one by one. Automatic doors opened, releasing well-dressed kids with huge backpacks and sparkling sneakers. Miguel stood on the sidewalk like he always did. He took a deep breath and pulled the styrofoam box to the front. Fresh sandwiches, bread with meat, natural orange juice, he said, his voice timid but steady. Some adults looked away. Others stared for a second before turning their faces as if he weren't even there. An 8th-grade boy, tall and wearing a name-brand hoodie, glanced at Miguel and whispered to a friend. "Check out the gourmet little hobo," he said, laughing loudly. The other boy added, "Next thing you know, he'll be asking to enroll in the school too." They both burst out laughing. Miguel pretended not to hear. He was used to it. People always laughed, whispered, pointed. They had said he smelled bad, that he was lazy, that he should go get a real job, as if his effort meant nothing. Still, he kept going. Every day. A security guard appeared. He had a stern expression and a radio clipped to his belt. He crossed his arms when he saw Miguel standing there. "Hey, kid, I've already told you. You can't sell here. You're getting in the way of the parents and students. Move along, or I'll have to call someone from the office. Got it?" Miguel tried to argue. "I'm just offering some food, sir. I'll be quick." But the answer came sharper. "Leave now." He obeyed. He always did. He slowly crossed the street without another word. On the other side, he sat on a bench in the square, still holding the full styrofoam box. It was too early to go home, and he needed to sell. Desperately. He opened the lid and took out a sandwich. The meat had already lost its warmth, but it still smelled good. He ate slowly, imagining what it would be like to study at that school. He pictured the big desks, the colorful notebooks, the teachers calling students by name. In his public school, the desks were broken, the fan didn't work, and teachers often missed class due to unpaid salaries. Even so, Miguel never skipped a day. He liked math. He liked to draw. He dreamed of becoming a civil engineer. He drew houses in the old notebook his neighbor had given him. It was his treasure. "One day I'll get there," he whispered to himself, eyes fixed on the school gate in the distance. An old man passing by the square stopped for a moment. He watched the boy eating alone. He thought about stopping, asking something, offering help, but he kept walking. Like so many others, he thought, not my problem. Miguel finished his sandwich and closed the box. He wiped his mouth with his sleeve and sat there watching the people go by. He knew he had to try again. Maybe on another street, in front of an office building, or near the bus stop. He couldn't go home without selling. His two younger brothers, 6 and 8, would be waiting, hungry. His mother still coughed a lot. She barely slept. She was far too thin. He was the provider at 13, and still he kept dreaming. He dreamed of a different future. He dreamed of respect, of dignity, of being seen not as a burden, but as someone who mattered. But that morning, once again, he was treated as invisible. What no one knew was that this quiet, humble boy was about to teach everyone one of life's greatest lessons. Chapter 2. Silenced voices. The sun was already high when Miguel decided to change spots. He walked through busy streets, weaving his way between newspaper stands, street vendors, and crowded bus stops. The cooler box hanging from his shoulder grew heavier by the minute, but he kept going. Each step was more than just a physical movement. It was an act of resilience. His body had long grown used to the aches, but the stairs, those still hurt. He arrived at the entrance of a commercial building. Many adults rushed out, hurrying to work. Men in suits, women with folders in their hands, all too busy to notice what was around them. Miguel positioned himself at the edge of the sidewalk, as he always did. Discreet, cooler in front of him, voice soft and polite. Fresh sandwich, ground beef with bread, natural juice, just 5 reais. Some passed without noticing. Others pretended to check their phones, and those who did look at him left behind that silent judgment, as if he were doing something wrong simply by existing in that space. A well-dressed woman stopped for a moment. She removed her sunglasses, looked Miguel up and down, and asked in a suspicious tone, "Where are these sandwiches made?" "At my house, Mom. My mom and I make them," he replied with a shy smile. She made an involuntary grimace, as if biting into something sour, and shook her head. "That's why this country never moves forward," she muttered, turning to enter the building. Miguel swallowed hard. He was used to harsh words, but they still scraped something inside. He stayed there for another hour, managed to sell 3 sandwiches. One to a construction worker, another to an elderly lady who always bought from him, and the last to a delivery driver. Simple people like him, who understood the weight of a tough day. It was almost noon when he decided to return to his public school. He had a science test that day. The leftover juice in the cooler would be his lunch. He walked quickly, cutting through the neighborhood by paths he knew by heart. As he passed a big snack bar, he spotted a group of teenagers in school uniforms, gathered around a table. He recognized one of them, one of the boys who had laughed at him earlier that morning at the private school. They noticed him. "Hey, look, it's the street vendor," one of them shouted, pointing. "Made any big sales today, boss?" The others burst into laughter. One of them crumpled up a napkin and threw it at Miguel. Miguel didn't react. He just kept walking. But, by bad luck, a man coming out of the snack bar accidentally bumped into his cooler. The lid fell off, revealing the remaining sandwiches. Some rolled out and landed on the dirty pavement. The juice spilled inside, soaking the bottom of the box. The teenagers laughed even louder. One of them was filming everything with his phone. Miguel knelt down and started picking up the sandwiches carefully, holding back his tears. The man who had bumped into him didn't even apologize. He just kept walking, as if nothing had happened. People stopped. Some laughed. Others just stared. No one helped. There, on the hot sidewalk, Miguel felt his soul weigh more than his shoulders. For a moment he wanted to disappear. He felt shame, anger, sadness, all at once. But still, he took a deep breath, stood up slowly, fixed the cooler, and kept going. At the entrance of his public school, the school monitor greeted him with a warm smile. "Good afternoon, Miguel. Did you make any sales today?" "Just a few, but there's still time," he replied, forcing a smile. She knew he was special. A quiet student, always attentive. He did his homework with care, respected, Everyone looked after his siblings like a little father. Even with so many problems, he never complained, and always arrived with a bright, "Good morning." That afternoon, during the test, Miguel wrote as if the pencil were a weapon. The pen was his hope. He answered everything with precision, remembering what he had studied under the weak kitchen light. The teacher watched him from afar. This wasn't just intelligence. It was resilience. It was hunger for a future. After class, Miguel grabbed the empty cooler and headed home. On the way, he stopped at a pharmacy and used the few reais left to buy his mother's medicine. When he got home, his brothers hugged him like a hero. "Did you bring juice?" asked the youngest. "Not today, but there'll be more tomorrow," Miguel said softly. And then, that night, he sat at the table, opened his notebook, and started drawing a house. A beautiful house, with big windows and a front garden. The dream house. The future still felt far away, but he knew, with effort, he'd get there. What Miguel didn't know was that something that had happened that morning. A video recorded with cruelty was about to turn everything around and change his life forever. Enjoyed this story? Then subscribe to the Golden Words channel so you won't miss any others. Every day, we bring you touching and emotional stories. Leave a comment with the city and country you're listening from. Let's spread these stories worldwide. Chapter 3. When the video goes viral that night, while Miguel slept soundly on the thin mattress beside his younger siblings, the world outside was moving in an unexpected way. Somewhere in the city, one of the teenagers who had mocked him uploaded the video recorded at the diner. The title was cruel. Look at the styrofoam gourmet dropping food on the floor. Within an hour, the post had already racked up hundreds of views, laughing emojis, sarcastic comments, jokes about street entrepreneurship. Shares followed. By more ridicule. The video showed Miguel on his knees, calmly picking up the food he had dropped, while the teens laughed. There was no sad background music, no context, just the scene and their mockery. But then something different happened. Among the mocking comments, a woman, journalist, activist, and mother, wrote, "Does anyone know who this boy is? Because all I see here is a kid trying to help his family by selling food, being humiliated by people who should be learning what respect means. This breaks my heart. We need to do something." The comments started gaining traction. People began to see the video through a different lens. Some recognized Miguel from the streets. Customers who had bought his sandwiches and praised the taste. A teacher saw the video and shared it with a heartfelt message. "This is Miguel. He's a student at my school. One of the most dedicated I've ever had. He's 13 and the head of his household. No father, and his mother is ill. And still, he dreams of becoming an engineer. The video is sad, but his story is beautiful." The post spread like wildfire. The next morning, while Miguel was preparing sandwiches with his mother, who was coughing more and more, his name had already gone viral on social media. Hashtags started popping up. Miguel inspires. Respect for everyone. Just from styrofoam to dreams, local news outlets began covering the video. A morning TV show aired a short segment showing a clip of the video with a new narration. Hard-working boy, humiliated by teens at upscale diner. But his story is moving the nation. Miguel had no idea. He went about his day as usual, trying to sell food, but something was different. That afternoon, in front of the same office building, two women approached him, smiling. "Are you Miguel?" He hesitated, cautious. "Yes, ma'am. I saw your video. I even brought you a home-cooked meal, and I'd like to buy 2 sandwiches. One of them said, moved. "You're such an inspiration. Did you know that?" Miguel didn't quite understand. He gave a shy smile, thanked her, but inside, a question started to grow. What video? Later that evening, when he got home, he got his answer. His Upstairs neighbor Donna Noemia called him over at the gate. "Miguel, come here, boy, you're famous." She turned on the TV, and there he was, the clip of the video, the news anchor narrating his story of resilience. The little sandwich vendor, the hopeful student, the boy with the styrofoam box. His mother watched, with tears in her eyes. "My son, is that really you?" Miguel didn't know what to say. His heart was pounding. The initial shame gave way to surprise, and then to something he didn't yet know how to name: hope. That night, the school phone rang dozens of times. People wanted to help. People asking for contact information. Companies offering scholarships. Organizations proposing partnerships. People from all over the country wanted to donate, support, get to know this boy. But in the middle of it all, Miguel didn't change. The next morning he put on the same shirt, tied the same fraying cloth around his styrofoam cooler, and went out to sell. He carried himself with the same humility, except this time he wasn't alone. A small line formed at the plaza where he usually sat. People came to buy sandwiches, but also to shake his hand, to hug him, to say, "Thank you for inspiring us." And then something no one expected happened. The owner of the private school, the same imposing building where Miguel had once been kicked out, read the article in the newspaper. He recognized the security guard, the students involved, and decided to take action. The following week, a formal letter arrived at the public school. It was addressed to Miguel. Chapter 4. The Door That Opens. The envelope was thick, made of sturdy paper. It was delivered by the principal of the public school, who had called Miguel into her office with a mysterious smile. "This is for you, Miguel. It arrived early this morning." He looked at the envelope with suspicion. He had never received something like this before. He opened it carefully, like someone uncovering a secret. Inside, a printed letter with a golden crest at the top. The first line made his eyes widen. "We are honored to invite Miguel Henrique to study with us, with a full scholarship, meals included, and complete support until the end of high school." It was from the private school, the same one where they had laughed at him, the same one that had rejected him just days earlier. Now, the director, moved by the story's impact and, more deeply, touched by the strength of that boy, was offering something rare, not just an apology but a real, concrete, transformative opportunity. Miguel didn't know how to react. "They want me to study there?" he asked, incredulous. The principal smiled gently. "Yes, my dear, and that's not all. You'll get a uniform, transportation, supplies, and do you know who's paying? A company that saw your video and fell in love with your story. They want to invest in you." He said nothing. The letter trembled in his small, calloused hands. Inside, a whirlwind, fear, gratitude, pride, confusion, all at once. Why now? Why him? When he got home, he showed the letter to his mother, who, though weak, hugged her son tightly. "My son, you did it. You made it." She cried like she hadn't in a long time. Not from pain, but from relief, from hope. For the first time, she allowed herself to imagine a future for her children with dignity. The next day, Miguel arrived at the new school. New uniform, new backpack, and a hard-to-hide anxiety. He still felt like an outsider. The boy with the styrofoam box among the children of businessmen. But something had changed. Many recognized him. Some came to greet him with respect. Others still looked at him with unease, but there were no more taunts. There was silence. There was impact. The school made sure to welcome him with dignity. The principal introduced him at an assembly. "This is Miguel Enrique, a young man who teaches us more through his actions than many books could. He joins us today not just as a symbol of perseverance, but as a classmate, with the same rights, the same dreams, the same worth." The auditorium applauded. Some of the parents present were moved. Miguel, standing on stage, kept his head down, eyes glassy. He wasn't used to applause. He was used to hot sidewalks and empty hands. In the days that followed, Miguel showed what drove him: quiet, observant, participative. He asked questions that surprised the teachers. His essays were intense, his math precise, his drawings full of soul. But what impressed people most was his attitude. One afternoon, during recess, he saw a younger boy crying because his classmates mocked his simple lunch. Miguel approached and sat beside him. "You know, I used to sell food on the street. It's fallen on the ground, people laughed at me, filmed me, and look, now I'm here with you." The boy smiled through tears. Then on impulse, he shared his lunch with Miguel. The gesture was photographed by a school staff member and posted on the institution's social media. The caption read, "Miguel didn't just join us as a student, he joined as a living lesson. A reminder of what humanity truly is." The image went viral again, but this time with pride, with affection, with recognition. Miguel began to be invited to interviews, lectures at public schools, meetings with at-risk youth. He told his story with simplicity, no dramatics. He spoke about his mother, his brothers, the butterflies in his stomach when he sold his first snack, but he always made sure to say, "What hurts the most isn't hunger. It's the contempt, the way someone looks through you like you're invisible. That's why today I look at everyone, because no one deserves to be silenced by what they wear or where they come from." With the support of the sponsoring company, a new project was born, Eyes That See, a campaign to fight social prejudice in schools. The idea was simple: lectures, workshops, and real stories told by youth like Miguel. The campaign spread across the country, and Miguel, with his gentle voice, became a symbol of empathy and resilience. But something even more special was about to happen. One morning, as he was getting ready to leave home, he heard a knock at the door. A well-dressed man stood there, his eyes emotional. "Are you Miguel Enrique?" "Yes, that's me." The man introduced himself as Juan Carlos, owner of a restaurant chain. He had seen Miguel's interview, and a deep memory stirred. He too had come from a hard childhood, had sold food on the streets, and now he wanted to do something that would change everything. "I want you to be the face of our new campaign. We're launching a scholarship and professional training program for low-income youth, and you'll be our ambassador. Deal?" Miguel didn't answer right away. He felt his heart pounding. He looked at his mother, sitting quietly in the room. She was smiling, pride glowing in her eyes. "I'll do it, as long as we help other kids like me, the ones still selling food right now, the ones who haven't been seen yet." The man extended his hand. Deal. And there, in that handshake, Miguel wasn't just sealing a partnership. He was opening a door for many others, a door that once seemed locked tight. But now, it was wide open. Chapter 5. The Silent Revolution. The city was never the same after Miguel. Shortly after the campaign with the restaurant chain was announced, posters flooded the streets. Miguel's face printed on walls, buses, billboards, even on TV. But it wasn't just an image. It was a symbol, a reminder that dignity doesn't wear a uniform, that courage doesn't have a fixed address, and that greatness can rise from humble hands holding a styrofoam box. Everyone deserves to be seen, that was the slogan. And behind it, a silent revolution was beginning. The Eyes That See project reached national scale. Every time Miguel gave a talk, an entire classroom would fall silent. In public schools, he sat on the floor with the students. He shared his story without embellishment, without playing the victim, just the raw truth that moved hearts: hunger, exclusion, humiliation, and the decision to move forward with dignity. In private schools, the approach was different, more provocative. Miguel asked the students to close their eyes and write what they imagined the life of a street food vendor might be like. Then he told his own story and shattered every stereotype. They cried. They learned. They walked out changed. Meanwhile, the social project, partially funded by the restaurant chain and new partners who joined, began to directly impact underprivileged communities. Young people like Miguel were offered scholarships, entrepreneurship courses, and psychological support. More than 300 children and teenagers were assisted in the first few months. Miguel, now 14, never left school or the streets. He continued, selling snacks on weekends, no longer out of need but by choice. He said it helped him remember where he came from. He took his little brothers with him, taught them how to treat customers, count change, and serve with care. It became his personal school of life. One Saturday, close to Christmas, a special event was organized in the same plaza where he used to sell. A solidarity fair. There were food stands, toy donations, performances from public school children, and a stage. That's where Miguel was called to close the event. He climbed the stage holding his styrofoam box. The crowd, hundreds of people, rose to their feet applauding, but he raised his hand asking for silence. "This box," he began, voice steady, "represents more than snacks. It represents my first attempt to change my family's story. It carries the cold, the exhaustion, the fear, but also the pride of never giving up." He paused. "When I was humiliated, I felt invisible, but once I was truly seen, everything changed. Not just for me, but for my mom, my siblings, and for my friends who now also have opportunities. And you know what I've learned? To see someone is more than just looking. It's recognizing. It's respecting." The crowd wept in silence. Today, I return that gaze to everyone who needs it, and I ask one thing, that each of you here do the same. See the boy cleaning your windshield at the stoplight. See the old woman selling candy with her grandchildren beside her. See them, and choose to do something different. When he finished, he was embraced by dozens of children, ordinary people, business owners, teachers. Among the crowd, there was also the security guard from the private school, the one who had turned Miguel away weeks earlier. The man approached, head bowed, tears in his eyes. "I'm sorry, Miguel. I was part of the problem. I was another closed door. But you taught me." Miguel hugged him without hesitation. "What matters is that the door is open now, and there's room for a lot of people to walk through it." At that very event, a new announcement was made. The creation of the Miguel Henrique Institute, headquartered in a renovated old warehouse, offering courses, psychological support, and professional training to at-risk youth. The institute was managed by volunteers, educators, and supported by companies who believed in social transformation. Miguel would be its honorary president. A few years later, his story was told in documentaries, books, and even adapted into a stage play, but he remained the same, shy, observant, kind. He loved visiting schools, talking to boys who, like him, once believed the world had forgotten them, and he always repeated the same phrase, "I'm just the snack boy, but if I could be seen, anyone can." Miguel proved that true revolutions don't make noise. They live in consistent actions, gestures of dignity, and the courage to keep going even when no one claps. He didn't want to be a hero. He wanted to be a bridge. And so, with a styrofoam box, a viral video turned life lesson, and a heart that never stopped dreaming, Miguel turned prejudice into an open door. And his legacy? Oh, that doesn't fit in any video. It lives in the eyes of every child who today is seen and who, just like him, will go on to change the world, silently, humbly, but with greatness. Enjoyed this story? Then subscribe to the Golden Words channel so you won't miss any others. Every day, we bring you touching and emotional stories. Leave a comment with the city and country you're listening from. Let's spread these stories worldwide.